Hey everybody, and welcome back. How are y'all doing today? My name is Teddy from Teatster, and today we are taking a look at the LG UltraGear OLED GX9, which is the world's first 5K 2K OLED gaming monitor. It's got 125 pixels per inch, giving you sharp text clarity with reduced color fringe. It's a bright 45-inch OLED picture, up to 1300 nits. There's a caveat there, with deep blacks and brilliant color. A dual mode 5K 2K 165 Hz or wide full HD at 330 Hz. 0.03 milliseconds gray to gray of OLED speed. DisplayPort 2.1. We'll have more on that later. FreeSync Premium Pro and G-Sync compatibility. 800R curve, giving you a wraparound immersive view. A certified glare-free and low blue light coating. It's got built-in speakers and a 4-pole jack with DTS HPX. LG is giving you a 2-year limited warranty and panel care tools, and a slew of gaming features. Alright, so first off, we're going to talk about the certified glare-free coating that this monitor has. LG is no longer calling it matte because I think they're well aware of the negative connotation in this space that matte coatings have, or matte films have on, and how people just don't like them. So they're calling it glare free now, and this is how it performs. So direct phone light, you can see that it does dissipate the phone's flashlight. And so I noticed also that it kind of makes the light warmer in the reflection than what it actually is. So that's kind of interesting. You can see I have my lights on in my office. Those are Govee lights, and I have some multicolored designs going, and you can still make out where everything is in the room. But next I'm going to turn on a ring light, and you can see how the room brightened up. So I got a ring light shining light directly onto the screen, so you guys can see that it is in full bright room conditions right now. And I'm going to run some YouTube HDR videos, and hopefully it comes through just how the reflection handling of this screen is in a normal bright room environment. So on the outside edges of the screen that aren't actually displaying any video content right now, you can see that the black levels are kind of raised. They're not completely blacked out, which I find odd, and which I've seen online. So people have called it a vignetting effect, where the outer edges of the screen kind of are more dim than typical. But looking at this display in person, it doesn't look grainy. Maybe I'm just desensitized to it, but it's not as bad as you would think. So you just have to see it in person to really truly experience it. But I don't think the image quality is compromised too much by this coating. Text clarity is pretty crisp. I really think they've really got that dialed in at this point. So along with increased pixel density and changes to the subpixel layout, the text has really been cleaned up on this monitor. So on screen, I've got some gameplay going. This is Horizon Forbidden West on PC, running in the full 5K mode, and I am running frame generation and also DLSS 4 in the quality mode. This game doesn't have any multi-frame gen capabilities, but running it in with DLSS 4 quality and frame gen, I typically can get around 120 frames per second, and it looks pretty good. The panel is pretty responsive. Actually, it's OLED, so you're gonna have almost instantaneous pixel response times. So playing a game like this, where you need, you know, some decent aim, good reaction times, even in this mode, it's really crisp and it's really playable. There is one thing to note, is that I am running a RTX 5080 in a Ryzen 9 9950X 3D, and this 5K mode is very, very heavy on graphics cards. I don't have any other card to test it with, but I would assume that to get the most out of this display, you would really want something like a 5080, a 4090 with the 24 gigabytes of VRAM, and if you can find a 5090, which you probably can't, and if you do, you probably shouldn't buy it, but a 5090 would probably be what you would need to get the most out of this display. So I think your money would be better well spent with something else. Standard 4K. I think a LG maybe C4 that can hit 144 hertz and is just your regular 16:9 4K would be a good place to be, even if you've got a 4090 or a 5080, even a 4080 Super. The 5070 Ti, 5070, that's really pushing it for 4K. I don't think you'd be comfortable with that, but the display looks good. I mean, it gets plenty bright. Windows would clip it to 604 nits for some odd reason. So the other dual mode monitors have that same problem, where there's a rated or a claim of reaching up to 1300 nits, but Windows doesn't even really want to. It seems like Windows is holding back the brightness, the peak brightness, and you can go in calibration, and you can actually set that to be a peak brightness of 1300 nits if you do that with the Windows HDR calibration tool. But yeah, it's a beautiful display. I can't really fault it on that. There are a couple, you know, inconsistencies about the DisplayPort 2.1 claim, which I'm going to get to in a rant at the end. If you want to watch that, I'll explain it all. But the basic rundown is that this monitor claims to have DisplayPort 2.1, which when you look into it, it's actually, the actual standard is UHBR 13.5, which is technically only enough bandwidth to get you 54 gigabits per second. And if you are attempting to run this monitor in the full resolution of 5120 by 2160, you cannot do that on that standard without display stream compression. So if you try to turn on and use the DisplayPort 2.1 mode at this moment in time, you will have a black screen. And I've also found that if you lower the monitor's refresh rate in the NVIDIA control panel or some other way to 100 hertz, you can actually go in and select within the monitor's menu. You can actually go in and select the DisplayPort 2.1 setting, and you can get it to display. But if you try to change the mode, so if you switch to the dual mode 330 hertz mode to try to play a game, and when you press that button to come back, it will not let you come back in to that mode without black screening. So it's pretty interesting. So it is, I guess, a bug, but it's just unfortunate that LG couldn't have just put the proper DisplayPort 2.1 80 gigabit per second port on the monitor. That if any monitor needed it, it'd be this one, but they decided not to. So, and on a $2,000 product, I would expect the best DisplayPort connection you could get. So I'll never understand why they didn't do that. In my mind, it's not excusable, and I don't think that I'm going to be keeping this monitor. And later on in the video, you'll see a whole rant. I'm actually going to do a screen cap of me figuring out and showing you guys why this doesn't work mathematically and physically, why it doesn't work. So on screen right now, I am actually just flying around the map, and you know, you're sitting back playing with the controller. Like, this is great, this is awesome, but is it much better than playing on like a 42-inch OLED with a glossy screen? I don't think so. I've switched back and forth between like these OLED monitors and then with like a C2 or C3, and I keep on being drawn back to the C line just because they're such good value for what they do. If you can get them on sale or get them secondhand off of like Marketplace, like you can't go wrong with it. I mean, something like this is definitely a premium product, but again, for that premium price, I feel like everything needed to be perfect, everything needed to be right, and everything is not. So as much as I want to like this monitor, and I can find a lot of good things to say about this monitor, but everything needed to be perfect, and it's just not. And the DisplayPort 2.1 thing is just, I don't know. I can't see past that. It just completely baffles me as to why they do that and then market it to be a DisplayPort 2.1 product when it's using display stream compression. See, right now, everyone pretty much has to run this using DisplayPort 1.4. So you may as well have just made it DisplayPort 1.4 and just said, hey guys, this is DisplayPort 1.4. It still looks great, and I don't think anyone would even have cared. Engaging dual mode function is as easy as pressing the button that's on the bottom of the screen, slightly left of the center. You will see a black screen, and then a indication will pop up saying dual mode is activated, which will put this into the 1080p 21.9 330 hertz mode, which is really snappy, really responsive, and has really good motion clarity. So in this mode, you're better suited playing these shooter games, these multiplayer games, fast reaction time games, and Marvel Rivals is one of those that I've been playing with my son. And so we're going to let this gameplay run. You guys can see for yourself the way that the screen looks. I think they have improved on the picture quality in this mode since the last monitor that came out with the dual mode function. And I can't really complain, seeing how this mode is meant for games like this, and you can actually run them on a 5080 and get really high frame rates. I think I'm maxing out the 330 hertz mode, albeit on, I think this is the lowest graphics settings for this, but this game isn't particularly well optimized, so you will get varied results in whatever game you play with whatever settings you get. So, but for the intended purpose of this mode, I think it is for just basically just brute forcing these games and getting the most frames as possible. So on a more positive note, I've been playing this game with my son, and he's 17 years old, and he's right in the sweet spot for gaming. He's really good at video games. He's really passionate about them, and so he's been playing this game with his cousin, and I jump in every now and then, and I play tank for them, and sometimes I play what is that, strategist, the healer. And then I've actually been playing some DPS or duelist, but I'm really enjoying the game. I think it's pretty fun, and it doesn't really get boring. There's lots of characters to play and to master. You get into matches quick. So what do you guys think of the Marvel Rivals? Let me know who your main is down in the comment, and I'm actually looking for some friends to play with. So if you guys do play this game, maybe drop me a comment with your username or something, or send me a PM, and maybe we can play sometime. Alright, quickly we're going to look at the LG Switch app, which you can download from the LG website. And this application puts a little widget down in the right hand corner of your desktop, and it allows you to do things like smart screen split, which you can arrange your desktop and your tabs in a multitude of different sections, and you can drop and drag and mix and match however you want to split this up, and it does it all on the fly as you go. You can also, let's see, you can update your monitor software from there. If you have software updates, you can set up timers. If you're connected to your PC via the USB-C port, you can actually change your monitor settings, and you can also do software updates when those drop in the future from this little widget. So it's pretty beneficial to download this. I actually been using it, so you can check that out if you want to. You can also use it on different LG monitors. And this is what happens when you try to run the monitor in its advertised DisplayPort 2.1 bandwidth mode. So you click on it and you get a black screen, and it stays a black screen. It will remain a black screen until you go in and select DisplayPort 1.4 again. Go back, click it 1.4, and magically it displays your image again. Okay, so what I just showed you was the DisplayPort 2.1 not working. So basically, no matter what I do, if I choose DisplayPort 2.1 in the OSD, it black screens and doesn't return. It doesn't even attempt to revert itself when it black screens. So sometimes it gets stuck like that, and I have to completely unplug the monitor. And then when I revert it back to DisplayPort 1.4, everything comes back in. So on DisplayPort 1.4, I can run everything like normally, like I normally would on any other monitor in the past using DisplayPort 1.4. I can run it at 10 bit color. I can run G-Sync. I can run HDR. But from my experience with the monitor, I can't run anything and get DisplayPort 2.1 to show up. So, and the reason why, I'm going to go further into that, it's basically just a marketing gimmick to even include that this this monitor has a DisplayPort 2.1 bandwidth. So the DisplayPort 2.1 bandwidth they talk about that this monitor has is, let me go down to the bottom here. And that is DisplayPort 2.1. That's UHBR 13.5 with display stream compression. When you go check the Wikipedia for DisplayPort, you'll see that DisplayPort 2.1A is actually what is on this monitor here. And it has replaced the DisplayPort 40 cable certification with a new DisplayPort 54 certification. So UHBR 13.5 can display up to 54 gigabits per second speed. So if you go to video bandwidth calculator, I will put in the resolution for this monitor, which is 5120 by 2160. And if you're running it at 144 Hertz, now this might work, I'm not sure. You have enough bandwidth without running with DSC. But if you want to run this at your full 165 Hertz without display stream compression, you're actually gonna run out, using 10-bit color, you're actually gonna run out of bandwidth. And that's not even using, I don't know if this accounts for like HDR or G-Sync or anything like that, because I think that adds on more bandwidth than just 10-bit. So just in its basic 4 or 5K mode at 165 Hertz with RGB 444, your bandwidth is going to run out and you're going to need to compress the image. So in my opinion, they shouldn't have even included 2.1 bandwidth, because it makes no difference in this monitor. You're still running display stream compression, which you could have done that with DisplayPort 1.4 and you wouldn't have this headache of I think they said it's a bug with the 50 series GPUs that causes these black screens and it's not compatible. Well, I don't know that it's really a bug. I think that it's just literally people don't know, okay, DisplayPort 2.1 should work, right? So they want to turn on DisplayPort 2.1 when they have G-Sync and HDR and it's set to 165 Hertz, and it's not going to display anything because it can't do it. So it literally, you should have just left it at DisplayPort 1.4. Like I don't know, like the whole marketing thing for 2.1 I think is really, really stupid, and it's a little predatory. Like that's a predatory thing to say for people who don't know about all the specifications and how much bandwidth is what. Like you shouldn't have to go to 4 different websites to figure out that your marketing is BS. So with this monitor, if you don't have discounts, you're spending $2,000, which it's going to be around $2,200 out of pocket after tax if you buy this for yourself. And at that price, I think it should have included the full DisplayPort 80 port, which would have just allowed for the entire image to be displayed on the screen without using DSC. So, and I don't know if they charged more for that. That might be what it is, because I had, you know, with the dual mode, that's pretty cool. Like playing those shooter games and stuff that I just showed you on this display at 330 hertz. It's really smooth. It's cool. It's different. It's faster than the 1440p version that came out, I think, 2 years ago. And you know, I don't know that it's an improvement, because that was still 1440p and it looked like the screen looked better and the image looked better, and it was still 240 hertz, so it was still really smooth if you could push those frame rates. So I think on this on a monitor like this, pushing 330 hertz, I think you kind of have to be 2560 by 1080p to get those kind of numbers on most people's cards. And then I know on some games, like I can't run the 5K mode without using like 3 or 4 times frame gen. So yeah, I think we're just not quite there yet, as far as, like, you know, people can't even get. I have a 5080. I can't really fully utilize everything on this monitor. Like for desktop use, it's great. You know, it's really having the wide canvas with that high PPI for creators, I think it's really cool. I think it looks great. I think that's a good, perfect use case for this monitor. But I think really not being able to make, most people don't have 4090s, 5080s, or 5090s. I think we're not quite there yet as far as the GPU power that it would take to push these monitors fully. And then with the whole DisplayPort 2.1 debacle, I just don't think that I can recommend this monitor, especially at $2,000. And for the average consumer, or even like somebody who just is a enthusiast, I really don't think that it's worth it. Like, I can go out right now and get like an LG C4, a 42 inch, or a C5, and spend half the money that I spent on this and still get a glossy screen. You're still getting 4K 144 hertz or 4K at 120 hertz without DSC, and, you know, superior brightness. You know, this monitor originally, like, if you just don't calibrate it and you go to display settings and you look at the peak brightness in HDR, it would be clipped to 604 nits. So at 604 nits, that's basically what Windows says that this is as bright as that's the brightest this monitor gets. So if you actually go into the Windows calibration tool and you push that up to what LG says this monitor can do, which I believe it says 1300 nits. Yeah, it says up to 1300 nits. So basically, in your Windows HDR calibration tool, you want to download it from the Windows Store, but you can come in here and you can actually set, when you get started, you can actually set your max luminance to the 1300 nits. I'm not going to do it right now because I already did it, but set it to 1300 nits, and even though it still looks like it's clipping, like once you hit the 604 nits, like that apparently to Windows is that window where that's where it will start to clip. But I push it up to 1300 nits, and then when I actually do go in games and I adjust the game's HDR, like I try to set it to higher levels so it looks its best and hits its brightest maximum luminance. So I really just don't feel like it's there yet. I think that, like I said, like a 42-inch or 48-inch LG C4 or C5 or even C3, the C line is just amazing as far as I'm concerned for desktop use and for, you know, a similar use case. You know, 144 4K is really fast too. I mean, and you don't have to push the extra pixels of 5K on this display. So I think for the money, this is a no-go. You know, for the deceptive marketing, that's a no-go. I mean, it's a really cool monitor. I can't deny that. You know, it's gonna check the box for some people, but I think that the hype that was built up around it isn't fully justified. You know, I've used, you know, almost every single new display that's come out in the past like 3 to 4 years, and I've seen different iterations of this kind of technology, and you know, it's just not hitting the mark for me. So with that said, once again, I'm going to reiterate, I do not recommend this monitor. I'm going to go return it, and I'm going to get a LG C4, and then if they're available, if there's a C5, I'll get that. I haven't found one that's available, but I know they have C4 at my local Best Buy, so I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'll probably just run a second display, probably 1440p, 360 hertz below my monitor, or below the TV, and then I'll probably just do a dual setup that way. So stay tuned for that follow-up video that I'm going to have. I'm going to show you guys the alternative that I'm going to choose for this monitor. I've already gone and picked it up. This is actually being recorded after what I just said on that rant, but stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. As always, I hope you guys can make an informed decision about this monitor. It is a very cool monitor. It looks great. It can perform very well if you have the hardware. A typical user, I don't think that you should run out and grab this at this time. Got to wait until graphics cards and everything improve, and then that they get the DisplayPort 2.1 problems fixed. But until then, it's just, I don't know, it's a non-starter for me. So do as you will with your own money, but hopefully you guys are able to make a more informed decision after watching this video. Thank you for watching again. If you pick this monitor up, please let me know down in the comments what you think. Are you having any problems using DisplayPort 2.1? Are you okay with using the DisplayPort 1.4 settings or the HDMI 2.1? Let me know what your experience is, what you guys are going to do, if you guys are going to keep it, or are you guys going to return it and do something different like I did. If you liked today's video and you got some useful information out of it, please consider to subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video so that way it gets into the algorithm. Hopefully more people see the video and can make a informed decision about this monitor before they run out and spend $2,000 on it and it doesn't work for them. As always, this is Teedster. I am Teddy, and I will see you in the next video. Teedster out.